everyone. Hey, everyone. Oh, my mic's a little bit too high. Okay. I'm not sure if you guys can hear me because I'm not sure if it's picking up on my mic. Yeah, it's not. Let me check. So what we're going to do, what are we going to talk about today? I don't know why it's not. We are going to be talking about the Book of Enoch, astrology, sorcery, and all of the above. Pretty much anything that is taboo, right? I was born and raised Roman Catholic. And as a Roman Catholic, I was very dedicated. Hey, Wendy, I loved my church. My parents stopped going to church when I was 6 or 7, and I continued to go. If I could have been a choir boy, I would have been. If I was in the not a choir boy, I was a choir. I was in the choir, but I mean the ones that walk down with the priest, right? Whatever they are, I would have been right there. But only boys could be that way. I'm going to give you a little idea of why this sorcery was taken away from us, and it is women. And this dials back to why women have been sort of ostracized for centuries, millennials, actually. And this is starting to come to fruition for me as I'm studying the Book of Enoch. The other thing I have to talk to you about is this little slip up that my husband did in bed last night. You're going to want to stay tuned for that one. And 30 minutes into the session, I will be doing live readings, and I will ask you at that time, what's your birth date, what's your birth information, and your exact question as we are, as I talk. Okay. But not right now, only at the end. So I'm Holly from AskHollyHall.com. I have a background in education in philosophy and psychology, neurolinguistic programming, past life regression, hypnosis therapy. And I am fascinated by what makes the world tick and finding the meaning of life. That's been my quest my whole life. So when I went to Catholic school, I thought the meaning of life was God. I had not a Bible. I had a diary. I talked about the boys I never kissed and the friends that dumped me and my parents were doing this and that. And I signed every single page with I love God until I was 19, about 18 or 19. And somehow, I don't know how, but I found out that the Catholic Church had some a really bad rap. What was happening with some of the choir boys and some of the, I won't get into it. And so I was just turned off. It literally turned me off. Should have it? I don't know. And I was on my quest to what else is there? Are there other answers out there? I became agnostic. I became a whole bunch of other things. I've kind of settled in Buddhism. That's where I've sort of settled in. I'm not like a practicing Buddhist where I do this every single day, but it's in the back of my head all the time. Their teachings are in the back of my head, and I've gone several times to Buddhist temples, etc. Anywhere I go, I have to find a Buddhist temple and visit it. But I've been very fascinated by the Book of Enoch. So I got the Ethiopian Bible, which is ridiculously gigantic. I lent it to my friend recently because I wanted to read the original Book of Enoch. The writing is literally like this big. So I gave it to her and she's going to read it. So I found one on YouTube. It's reading from the Book of Enoch, and it's quite fascinating. Where did women fall in this sorcery? So there's what's called the fallen angels. Okay, there's the watchers, but they turned into the fallen angels, and they were told by God or gods, I believe there's gods, to come down, mingle with us humans. And although we were much more Neanderthalish, I think, at that time, or tribal at that time, mingle with them, don't have sex with the women, don't teach them how to use weaponry, and don't teach them sorcery because they're not ready yet. But when I read the original or listened to the original text, it just said, don't teach them sorcery. It'll be used for evil. Don't teach them weaponry, be used for evil. So right away I'm going, astrology is evil. which I've been told by my very religious, married into family that I am. But I did more digging and research. See, this is why you can't take everything for face value. I want all of you guys to be skeptics. What happened was, as I dug deeper, they told them not to teach them this because they were not mature enough. It was too soon for them to have this power. But what did they do? They came down, they had sex with women. They taught them sorcery and herbology and astrology, and they taught the men how to make weapons. And this in turn changed how women were treated from there on in. Now, is this similar to the Garden of Eden? Is it? Is this an Adam and Eve story where the women were given something and told not to use it yet, but they did anyways, and yeah, tempted Adam? I don't know. I think there is something there. But I did some more research, and it said the reason was, and the Watchers or the fallen angels broke this law, right? Was it would create an imbalance and create violence and chaos. And it does to this day. To this day. I have had people, I was actually ashamed for a long time. I was in shame for you. I discovered this gift of astrology at 21. Trust me, it was like I was learning a second language. I don't understand why I knew as much as I know, as much as I do. But I felt shame that this was evil. And I didn't want to be a crystal ball person. And I didn't want to be kind of reverend as that, like a witch, right? Or a crystal ball. I didn't want to be just used for predictive. And to this day, I find it uncomfortable, but it's not the way I work. So I'm not as uncomfortable with it at all now. But I won't do expos. What do you call them? The ones that you go and you get your palm read and you do all those things, right? Psychic fairs. I won't go to them because I won't. When am I going to meet my soulmate? When am I going to win $1 million? When am I going to die? Like, I won't answer those questions. And with my clients, I don't answer those questions either. What I will do, which is what it's really meant to be used for, according to the Book of Enoch, is I will take a look at who you are, what your innate gifts and personalities are, what your karmic credit is, and your karmic debt. I will look at future alignments of the constellations against your particular chart, and then I will show you how to get what you want and to guide you there to manifest. And sometimes it's letting go of blocks and letting go of baggage and letting go of things and people and places and experiences in the past and healings that are getting in your way. And they don't physically get in your way, right? But have you ever seen that commercial? And they're trying to teach people don't drink and drive. And they put, I think it's a bottle of beer or a glass of wine, but they put it one in front of the other, in front of the other, in front of the other, and you're looking through them and it gets blurred. And they're driving, so you see all the traffic lights at night, and you see it get blurrier and blurrier and blurrier, right? It's the visual of what's going on hasn't changed, but your vision of it has changed because metaphorically you've had too much to drink. This is kind of what happens with our lives when blocks or things get on our way. Every time we allow circumstances to taint us, to cloud our judgment, it's another bottle, it's another glass, it's another glass, it's another glass in front of each other. And then it gets to the point where you can't even see anything. You don't even know what's there. It's too clouded. So we have to slowly take away each one of those situations in order for us to be able to reveal these gifts that we have according to the Book of Enoch. And many of you, I've said that we've talked about the telepathy tapes, and I've interviewed Nicola Farmer, who's been very involved with the telepathy tapes as well. You can find that on my YouTube channel at Ask Holly Hall. Halfway through this 1 hour that I'm going to be here in 20 minutes, I'm going to be asking you guys for your birth chart, your birth date, and your exact question. And I will answer your question. I really appreciate it on TikTok. If you can like, tappy, tappy, tappy. So what questions do you have around we all have this, we all have a little witch inside of us. We all have these gifts, these sorceries, these abilities. We have them because we are part of, just like Adam and Eve, we are part of the fallen angels. It's in all of us to a degree. And so we have these gifts. We are half tribal and half ascended. And we have these abilities, but they've been clouded and they've been keeping them from us. Some of them are, in the archives underneath the Vatican. They're all over the place. Smithsonian has taken relics and no one will ever see them. Everything's been hidden from us. Even I think it's the Dead Sea Scrolls and the Emerald Tablets. Difficult to find the entirety of it. There's a gentleman that's on very, very famous on YouTube that breaks down the Bible scientifically, even with as far as like the old paper, and does a, DNA kind of forensic look at the Bible. And he's still wrong at times, very wrong at other times. And I am not a scholar of the Bible, but everybody can twist it around to suit their narrative, which is right there wrong for me. This is why I like Buddhism, because it's not a religion, and it's not, and they believe in anybody who wants to follow whatever religion they want to follow. Those monks that are walking around, have you guys seen them? There's 24, and they've been on this trek since October of 2025. Apparently, they're finished right the first week of February, which I'm kind of sad because I'm going to the States and I thought I'm going to find them. I'm going to go to one of their events. And I mean, every day, 4:00 in the morning, without fault, they're just going out and they're talking peace. And if you go on my Facebook page, you'll find it. You'll also find it on my post on my YouTube channel. What they say is 100% right. What they say, and they even mention some of the murders, killings. Well, they're not, I shouldn't air quote it because they are murders and they are killings that have been happening in the States by a particular group of an army type. I don't want to say it, right? An army type. You know what I'm talking about. I'm Canadian. And they even said, you got to let go of the hate. You're not contributing to peace if you're hating what's going on. And that's when I started studying Buddhism, that's a hard thing to wrap your head around. One of the teachings that I learned is that if somebody murders your daughter in cold blood, you can't have hate. You have to find a way to find peace with it. Because it doesn't abolish the person, the evil that happened. It doesn't. It's true. This was an evil act that happened, but it makes it worse. It doesn't make it better because you carry around that evil energy by having evil thoughts about evil. Do you know, what do they say? Evil begets evil. Good begets good, something like that. And so the book of Enoch talks about astrology and basically says that we learned it too early. But who did they give it to? They gave it to the women. And so what I'm going to talk to you about, what my husband said in bed last night, is we read the Tao, a page out of the Tao almost every night. I like to say we do it without fail, but we do it. We don't. We forget. And there was a reference to a god and it is quite a few times in the Tao. And it says she. And he goes, why is it a she? Why isn't it a he? And I said, does it matter? And he goes, well, the he should be noted as well too. I said, if it said he, would you say, why is it a he? Why isn't it a she? And he went, well, I just think that the men are not being noted here, and I should say he, she. And I said, no, but I'm asking you though, if it said he, would you question why it isn't a she? And he said, probably not. And I went, that's something to think about. That's how, and this is a good man who is not, a, you know, into, he believes in the strength and the power, if not more than them women, hands down. He has a lot of respect for women. But this is indoctrinated in our culture. When we speak of someone who's in power, who is reigning over all of the cities in the world, and we say she is reverend by all of her people, you're going to go, your ears are going to perk up. You're going to go, she? Because we're indoctrinated into thinking that the women are the less powerful and the men are the most powerful. And they are both powerful in their own right. But the feminine power has been clouded, and our judgment of what that feminine power is clouded. And the reason I bring up the telepathy tapes a lot is because obviously, somehow, as a society, we have matured. And we're now at a place where we are allowed to witness this power. They're all, if you watch it, they're all most of them are nonverbal autistic kids who pretty much have no control over their physical body or even the sounds that come out of their voice. And they're thought to be, autistic and not intelligent and need to be taken care of for their whole life. Through this study with Dr. Diane Henningsen, they've discovered that they're telepathic, that they've been reading minds their whole lives, their parents' minds, but they can't verbalize it because they're nonverbal. And also, they can download a crap full of information anytime they want. Like they could download this entire Ethiopian Bible with all of its 18 missing books right now, where I'm reading it and I'm taking notes so I can remember it. And apparently I can do that too, but my judgment is clouded. What if we were born, like, tap, 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 everyone on my TikTok. What if we were born to already know that we have this power? Are we going to get to that point? Are we going to get back to the Sumerian, Lemurian, Atlantis days? Are we going to get back to the beginning where we can know and have this power without misusing it? I used to say that I think we've lost our heritage and we've lost our past and we've gone, astray, and we've lost our tribal and our community connection as well. But I realize now we didn't lose it. We never had it. We just, as generations and generations go on, we're just misusing our power more and more. And the thing is that if you look at the CIA, the FBI, and things like the Stargate Project, etc., they have those powers. They've trained Watchmen, Men Without Goats. I got that wrong too. It's a movie, George Clooney, and they talk about the CIA learning how to remote view and teaching people how to remote view. They have all these powers, and they don't want us to have it. The telepathy tape kids have been approached by the CIA. Anyone that is a savant or highly gifted and it becomes well known, they get approached by the CIA because they don't want us to have this power. They don't want the power released. We have so much power that there's a episode on the telepathy tapes where a man talks about having an excruciating toothache, and my ears perked up because I had this experience for 3 months because it took that long to get in hospitals, COVID, blah, blah, blah. And he had to wait too. And so his friend said, I want you to see his Chinese medicine person. He did. And that Chinese medicine person said, open your mouth. And he did. And he goes, okay, your tooth is out. He's like, what? He goes, yeah, your tooth is out. I talked to the tooth basically with a mantra. And I made it pop itself out. And this guy does it all the time. It's all over Hollywood. They know of him. He talked about how it's an ancient Chinese secret, but they were banned from it in China. And it's just like, when is that madness going to stop? This is why I talk about the Great Divide, because I believe we're going to have a breakout civilization where we will go off in our own direction and do what we want to do. Last week on both my TikTok and my YouTube, I predicted that this week the protesting would amp up tenfold. Specifically next week, it's going to get even worse with protesting. And we've already seen in different areas that protesting has been causing a lot of harm. But the one protesting that hasn't is the Buddhist monks. Now, shout out to those Buddhist monks who came across. They're not from the U.S. and they're going through the U.S. I don't think they are, because they have a very thick, like, Tibetan accent. But correct me if I'm wrong. But shout out to all of you monks all over the world. Can all of you guys start doing this? One of the things that I had learned is that in Tibet, the monks were invaded by the Chinese army, and the Chinese army took control over the land, and they stood guard everywhere throughout Tibet, and they stopped most of them from doing their practices, because they would practice while they're walking in the streets and etc. From what I've heard, it was never really, a war or anything terrible, but they took over. This is not your land anymore. This is our land. But they did exile the Dalai Lama, and they're still waiting for the Dalai Lama to come back. They have never wavered from their belief system. They're not angry. They're not hurt. They still share peace. They won't fight back. You can go in there with guns and start shooting everybody, and they won't fight back. They absolutely won't, hands down, fight back. And that is how we're all supposed to live. I know it's weird, because it's like, why wouldn't I protect myself? Thank you, Kelsey. Why wouldn't we protect ourselves? Why wouldn't we save our children if somebody, had them hostage with violence? Why would we not protect ourselves from violence with violence? And I know many of you are, have looked at prepping, because what if we don't have food, and what if control comes in? And it's good. It's good that you're going to prep so that we go back to the basics and have everything that we need in case there's no food source or there's no energy source. But then there are people getting guns and everything for that. That is something that the Tibetans would end. Now, there's no judgment. This is a big lesson that I'm learning all the time, is judgment. And when you say, well, this person did that, and they killed somebody, or they hurt somebody, or they imprisoned somebody, or they took something away from somebody or a culture or a country, they're evil. That's judgment. You might want to say, part of me would say, no, that's observation. It's judgment. Is when you take like the color red and the color blue, and I say to you, which color is your favorite? Which color do you like the best? And you say blue, which you probably said. Most of you probably said blue. You made a judgment call. You chose one over the other. What if you just said, none? I don't choose either. I don't see the need to choose either one. Well, no, you got to choose one. It's red or it's blue. Like, you got to pick one. No, I don't. But we don't do that. We are given choices all the time. You walk into a grocery store, you walk into a bank, you go to vote, you talk to somebody who's having a conversation about something that's a little heavy. You start making a judgment call, and you put in your 2 cents about what your judgment is. And we're not supposed to judge. As they say, if you want to get biblical, that the only one who's to judge is God at the end of all of this, which I think indicates that we're not supposed to be the judge of others. But in the name of religion, we do judge others. You're not the right Catholic. You're not the right Jew. You're not the right Christian. You're not the right, even like there's so many different sects of Buddhism as well. I don't know if they judge themselves. They're a vegetarian and they're actually meat eating Buddhists because they're in China, a little bit in Japan, they're in Tibet, they're in India. Well, they're all over the world, right? But I mean, they originated. How do we know when we're judging? When we make a decision and a choice and we pass that on to somebody else. How do we stop it? Can you imagine if the entire world just stopped judging overnight? I would like to think that we could do this all on our own, but I don't know. I know there's more good people than there is bad, but to get to that height of a Buddhist monk, which I'm not at that, I don't know. We're not there. Because they're not judging what Bible you should read, what God you should follow, whether there's a Jesus or not a Jesus, what prayers you should say, when you should say, they don't follow any of that stuff. So last 6 months to a year, I started going back to church and I started trying to fit in with the church because I wanted like a community and a lot of my friends were doing it. But I can't do it. I realized I like my Buddhism and I'm going to stick to that. And here's my biggest judgment, right? We have a Buddhist temple here. It's not really a temple. It's like an office space that we can go and meditate at. And I would love you guys' advice if you're watching this. And Kelsey says, I'm a bit horrified with how judgmental I am. I never really thought about it. Good for you. Good for you don't be horrified. Good for you for recognizing that that's something you want to work on. We have to work on it. Even Buddhist monks have to work on it all the time. And so I still have judgment over this. I was going to this regularly, twice a week, and my daughter, who I was having some difficulties with, loneliness with, I just didn't see her enough, she seemed to be irritated when she was around me, typical mother-daughter stuff. She, out of the blue, said, "Can I go to one of your meditation classes?" I'm like, "Yeah." But she was around 21, and it was a class that I was taking, and the class had already started. They actually let me in, even though it was already 2 classes in, they let me in going, "I think you'll be okay." And this was now 4 classes in, and I asked, could my daughter attend? She just really wants to learn about meditation. And they basically said no. And I thought it was a judgment call on their part. They basically said, I forget what the reason was, but it was, we don't think she's well adapted or she's, or she's ready for it, something like that. And I was like, what do you mean you don't think she's ready? You don't even know her. And you don't think I've never heard of a Buddhist class saying no to somebody coming in. And I went back and forth with them and it got kind of heavy a bit. And then I thought, I can't go anymore because it tainted my whole idea of what that was all about. And that's me making a judgment on their judgment. If it was a judgment, to me, they just said, yeah, sure, more the merrier. Might intrigue her to start from the get-go, right? But I made that judgment. Jala, will I have work tomorrow if I go home right now? I don't know. Why don't you try and see what happens? Okay, so we're going to do live readings right now. And if you're on my YouTube, please chime in. Say hi, say howdy, like your comments. I know sometimes we walk around and just listen, but we're not right there to type and make comments. On this AIP diet, this is lemon ginger. So here's all my notes on the Book of Enoch. And I want you guys to, what can I do here? Here we go. Give me your birth information and let's get this potty started. And you don't even need to give me birth date information. If you want to have information about, I can just get downloads like what's going on in the universe, what's going on in the world, what's going on with this kind of feeling, what's going on with that kind of feeling. Why, what are soulmates? What is reincarnation? No, 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 no. Right? And I can tell you just what I know. And that's it. So if you're on TikTok and you want to have a free reading right now, give me your birth date and your information, or just ask me a general question that's not about you in particular, but it's just about the whole thing. I do need a specific question if that's possible. January 29, 72 to 10. Okay. Don't ask for generals when you've got me for just a couple of minutes, because you don't need a general. You want an exact question answered. I mean, you just got me for a couple of minutes, so why not make the most of it? Right? And you're not leading me by doing that. Trust me, you'll see how I work. So what I'll do is, because astrology is really about getting to know who you are and why you are the way that you are, and all your gifts and your talents and your blocks and what's holding you back, then that's what I'm going to look at. So for 210 and January 29th, 72, I'm just going to talk about who you are. And it's already done, so you don't worry about asking your question right here and now. So the first thing that stands out for me is that you have had some quite difficult challenges growing up with authority. And the reason that you've had those challenges with authority, and I'm talking about teachers and bosses and fathers and mothers, like a passive aggressive relationship between your mother and your father, it brought up this feeling that you were abandoned, that you were sort of left to have way too much responsibility as a child. And you grew up feeling like I'm the responsible one, I'm the reliable one, and there's nobody else who's going to take care of that or take care of this, so I'm going to be the one that does it. You had a lot of respect for your parents when you were younger, and teachers and authority, and you grew up with disrespecting only because you could see how people would misuse their power. You got a gift that way. And one of your greatest gifts is your compassion. And your compassion sees clearly when people misuse their power. You experience this in how you earn your money and how you make your money around 2020. I want to say 2022. 2022. And that changed, 2021 and 2022. And that changed your career. It changed how you made your money. Hopefully in a positive way, and you didn't get bitter or angry or push back or spend too much time with that pushback, right? Love your feedback, goalie mom, on this. And I don't know what time, I do know what time you're born. So you're very, very, very empathic and very sensitive, and you pick up on the emotions of feelings of others constantly. And this makes it difficult for you to navigate. So you tend to want to, as soon as you go home, like you're drained and you just want to go home. Hopefully you have found your way to finding your healing abilities, and that you're self-employed or you're in a management position, and that you are using the gift of your healing abilities. And if you've always wanted to do it, but you're thinking, I'm just going to do it as a side gig because I'm doing the responsible thing and I've got a regular paycheck going on here, then at least do it as a side gig. I don't care if you volunteer in a soup kitchen. You need to be in a position, you need to be helping those that have less than. And just somebody talking to you while you're pouring them soup, will you change lives? Because you're the healer. In a non-monetary world, people would come to you to coach them, to guide them, to create a plan for them, to keep them on track. That's why you do really well in a management position, or at least an autonomous job. An autonomous job, like a teacher, is an autonomous job. You're given the curriculum and what to do, but nobody's watching you while you're running your class. and telling you what to do and what not to do, right? A doctor, a therapist, etc. So let's look at feedback would be welcomed, because that tells the universe that there's gratitude. And then when you have gratitude to the universe, you get manifesting. You get to manifest. I teach my clients how and when and what to manifest all the time. I'll give you a little story. I have a regular client, and I have a manifesting group. You can find that on HollyHall.com on my website. And this particular person who I've been working with for a few years is on the search of where do I live and what is my job and what is my career, and I'm not happy here and I'm not happy there. And I had he's so unhappy in the career that he has right now. He wants to move. He's applied to another one, and he's like, I want to manifest that I get this job because I need to get out of this crap job that I'm in. Careful what you wish for. What if this job you romantically think is a good job for you, just because you're so desperate to get out of the job that you have, is just going from the frying pan to the fire? You don't know that. So you got to put it out to the universe. I want what's best for the good of all. That's it. I just want to get out of this crappy job, and I want what's best for the good of all. And I have another client who went through the same ordeal, and she lost her first job, and she worked so hard to maintain it. In fact, so much so she was losing herself. And then she lost her job, and she just thought it was devastating, the worst thing that ever happened to her. And by the time I told her she lost that job, I told her, I said, this next job is going to be the one for you. This is not it. Because she was like, is this the job? Is this the job? I said, a certain date, you're going to be very happy with the job. Well, is it the one I have now? I said, might be, it might not be. But either way, such and such a date, you're going to be very happy with your job. So she lost that job within a month, got a new job, been there for 6 months now, happy as a pea in, right? And she's making way more money than she did, and she's at a lot less stress. Oh, but that experience that she had from that job got her the job that she has now. So there you go. Now let's look at Goal Mummy says that sounds all about right, except it falls on deaf ears to 17-year-old. Thank you. Okay. I'm not sure what's falling on deaf ears. But awesome. Because that was all about you, because you gave me your birth date, right, Goalie Mom? 1979. Now, taking a look at what should be my direction of work, feeling lost in direction. So I'm going to tell you, a lot of people are feeling lost in direction right now, because the whole paradigm around how we earn our money, how we make our money, the shift around that is changing drastically. And so some of you that are intuitive, I'm going to get Karen. Karen, you're next. So hopefully you're still there. I just got your manifesting book. Thanks, Karen. Yes, I have a manifesting book. It's on sale on Amazon. It's a workbook. It walks you through 30 days, but you're to use it for 3 months. So it's a 90-day workbook in it, and it teaches you about manifesting while you're manifesting. Like, it's really cool. So we have Karen, you're going to be next at July 27, around, let's say, 11 a.m. What should I do about inheritance, and where should I move and when? So as for the career change, because you're feeling it, you're sensing it, and what's happens with you is you're very, very, very gifted. And I'm talking to July 16th. Is that right? Are you the one that gave me? Yeah, 89. You're very, very gifted in knowing when fear is around. That's called animal instinct. They know when to protect themselves and when they need protection and what they need to do instinctively. But as humans, we tend to not know when to do that and when not to do it. We kind of walk around in fear all the time, and that's because we've been indoctrinated by our environment. But you have the gift to do that. So there's something right now that's telling you things need to change. What you're very good at is teaching, extremely good at teaching, very good at sales, very good at working in psychotherapy or counseling or consulting or working with children of special needs, specifically ones that have difficulty verbalizing, talking, communicating, reading, expressing themselves. You do all of this very well. You do prefer to work from home or to work in private, but you do like to talk and communicate on a regular basis. So you're not someone who just wants to sit at home and work on a computer, right? You got to get on the phone and be talking and teaching and expressing. You got a ton of planets going through the 10th house. So this is perfect timing to do it. And you are supposed to be working with as a humanitarian in a humanitarian endeavor. So that means being a part of a humanity shift or change. I want to see if she resonates with the working with special needs or children, etc. See, normally I would get a response and then I would get another download. And then I get a response and I get another download. And yeah. So then Kelsey says, yeah, you got to say yes, what? Because I don't know what you're saying yes to, sweetie. I like helping kids. Okay. What do you do right now? Or what's your education or experience? Education experience is the same thing. I do find it very hard, though, emotionally. Not when you're in charge. You won't. You need to be the one in charge, not the parents in charge. Right? You need to be the one in charge. So helping. Oh, you know what? Take a look at that. Do you know that the telepathy tapes? They're looking for spellers around the world because they want to help kids learn to spell. It's called Spellers. You can see the movie on YouTube and you can learn to be a speller. It's not going to be a full-time job though. It would be a part-time gig until things start to pick up. By 2028, everyone's going to want to learn how to spell that are nonverbal. And they're going to need them in schools or need them in educational type situations. So take a look at that. You also work good with as a doula. You would do really well as a doula. Working with women around pregnancy. And see, I'm not talking about being a therapist, though. It's more working in the schools. You struggle at school. Yeah, that is interesting. Whatever our pain was as a child is what we're learning to be the solution of that as an adult. You know, you always hear those people, I became a doctor because my mom died of cancer and I wanted to help cure cancer, you know, that type of thing. That's, you had difficulty in learning and reading and language, and the teachers didn't teach you as you should have been taught. You didn't struggle. They struggled to teach you properly. This is something you can learn. So look at spellers, look at working linguistically. Even if I would even just volunteer once a week and help kids read. I had a lot of learning and reading. Yes, spot on. I would go to teach kids, help kids to read once a week, even if it's for an hour, and the universe will start working with you because you'll get on a trajectory and you'll get in a sort of I call it like a black hole, like a portal, because that's where you're supposed to be, and things will just start sparking. Things will just start happening. Okay? Do that. July 27, and she wants to know what she should do with her inheritance and whether she should move. I thought I answered this one before. It sounds like a very familiar question. And I'm not always liking to be asked the same question twice, because then I think people just they're hoping for a different answer. And often I just give you the same answer again. We've got Libra. That's not going to work. There's nothing standing out in your chart right now, except for the Gemini, Jupiter, because we don't know your exact time of birth. Oh, come on. You're welcome. Then I would say with Jupiter in Gemini, it's at 26 degrees. I'm not going to tell you what to do with the money. It's up to you. But as for a move, ask HollyHall.com. Give me your birth date information and your question, and I'll answer that as well. Where are we? Jupiter. If there's going to be a move or a shift, that'll be May of 2026. And then there's another date that's very strong in 2027. But that's not until, I think that's May as well, 2027. Yep. May of 2027. So those are your 2 dates. I love listening to what you have to say about myself and others. Appreciate your knowledge. Oh, thank you, hon. So let's take a look at what's going on. So that was for Karen. Thank you. Okay, so it looks like we're done here. We're a bit slow today. And thank you for all those that are returning. And I hope you enjoyed. Can it show if you will have kids? Not in a quick one like this. No. You're welcome, Karen. What you want to do astrologically is, if you know the time of your birth, Hira, just look it up, do the Vedic version of it or sidereal version of it, and see how many planets you got in your 4th or your 5th house. That can indicate children. So, for instance, I have nothing in my 4th or 5th house, and I was told I would never have children. But I was also told by a psychic or tarot card reader a while back that I could change that, and I did. And I had a baby at almost age 36, like a few weeks before I was 36. And yes, I was told I could never have children. Okay, so we can always change things. Everyone, you have no planets there. Okay, but you just heard my story. So we have to look at what are the bigger planets going through the 4th house. Yeah, well, you have part of fortune in the 5th house, so you look that one up. And then see if there's any big planets going through. Is Pluto, is Saturn, is Uranus, is any of them going through the 4th house and connecting with another planet? That could show that you're in a time of being able to get pregnant. Okay, everyone, I hope that you enjoyed this. Love your comments. If you're listening to this after, what are your comments about the Book of Enoch? What are your comments about sorcery and witchcraft and the Bible? Tomorrow, we're going to be talking about soulmates. And Friday, we're going to be talking about karma. What are soulmates? What is karmic credit? And what is karmic debt? Okay. Namaste, everyone.